Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor and I help people navigate through their awakening process. In this video, I want to address a question that I got from someone that I could personally relate to. She said, Victor, I'm being told I have all these symptoms that you say are an awakening, while my doctor and psychiatrist are telling me it's actually a dissociative disorder. And so how do I know which is which? And this is something that I wondered myself. I can imagine that a lot of rational-minded people couldn't help but have that same question in their mind, like, wow, nobody I know has any of these weird symptoms. And there's some wacky spiritual people there on YouTube that say, oh, it's an awakening. And yet my doctors and these sort of authorities I've always sort of trusted with this sort of, whenever I had something wrong with me, they're saying it's this. What is it? So what I did when I was a lot younger, this is before I really knew I was awakening, but in retrospect I can now see it was in fact part of it, according to my own opinion anyway. So I went to the doctor, like my family doctor, because I think it was like 20-ish or something, and I was having these wild mood swings where there were days, like spans of days, where I just felt like really awesome, really clear, really crisp and articulate and charming and comfortable in my own skin. And then for no discernible reason at all, the next day or week or month, I would just descend, as we often do, into like where I was just engulfed by all my like issues and my ego and these heavy, dense emotions, and they wore on me like a heavy blanket and jacket, like a wet jacket, and it like influenced, and it made me sort of stutter and get choked up, and I could not really exemplify my true self through this. And the way I described it at the time, I just got really depressed, really down, really unconfident, really fearful, really sensitive to all my emotions, and it would just fluctuate. And I didn't know anybody. None of my buddies were mentioning this. They all seemed relatively, compared to what I just described, relatively stable. And it just got so intense to where I felt like there was something going on with me. So I went to my family doctor. And you know what he did? This guy came back. He said, oh, okay, I told him my symptoms. He came back with this little note card. It was like a little yellow note card, no bigger than this. And it had 10 questions, 10 real short questions. And he said, check the boxes of these 10 questions that apply to you. So I did. And I believe there were 6 out of 10 that I got. It said, you're bipolar. It's like, really? I'm bipolar, just like that? That's all it took? Yep, you're bipolar. I'll be right back. He came back and gave me a benzodiazepine, like a downer, some Valium. He said, oh, I take these whenever I'm really stressed out. Here you go, buddy. He sent me out the door, tell me I was freaking bipolar. Even in my young adolescent age, I was not satisfied with that diagnosis, which was obviously quite limited in the depth that went into with me. So I went to an actual, like, highly recommended psychiatrist. I remember this guy's wall was lined with all his accolades and his all his different degrees and whatnot. And he's just a short guy just sitting there in his desk. And his method of diagnosing me was not much more in depth. We had about a 5-minute conversation, and he said, well, yes, I would concur you are, in fact, bipolar, but I wouldn't recommend taking that because that's just sort of a downer. It's not going to do anything for you. I'll put you on something better. He put me on something called Lamictal, which is like an anti-seizure medication. And this shit made me so groggy and sleepy and numb, like I was just floating through life, totally disconnected. I could have walked off a cliff and not given a shit. It was like, I can see why people become suicidal on that bullshit medication. So it was maybe 2 weeks before I said, to hell with this stuff. Even if I'd rather deal with the crazy ups and downs than that stuff. So that I could have gone that route. I could have been on that medication to this date. 10 years later, I could still be taking that. And if there's one thing I learned about antidepressants and that sort of medication, even though they do have their place for some people, I will say, in my opinion, it sort of stops the emotional growth to an extent because it blocks you from them. It keeps them down in the depths of your unconscious and does not allow these things to come up. And I chose to ignore the definition, the label that doctor gave me because it didn't work for me. It was making my life worse. I was completely more miserable feeling so apathetic due to that medication than I was with my high highs and low lows, because now I've learned in choosing to label my experience, whether it is actually or not an awakening, I choose to label that way because that definition has helped me utilize the highs and the lows and the ups and the downs and all these wild challenges, because I'm able to gain knowledge and benefit and learn from my lows and my challenges. And slowly but surely, I have been putting myself together, growing myself, expanding myself, allowing me to open up to greater depths of wisdom and love and compassion and clarity. And it's manifested for me physically. I'm advancing myself in life. My life is improving dramatically fast, even in the midst of these highs and lows, which some would still conclude is whatever, the disorder you mentioned. I'm sure I could go to the doctor right now and they'd tell me I'm ADD. I know that for a fact. So what? Which definition works for you? I can't tell you or anyone if you're really going through an awakening. I can't tell you a spiritual awakening is something that even exists. It's just a name, it's a label. But your experience, your actual life, moment-to-moment experience is what matters. And the definitions you choose to buy into will have dramatic impact on that experience you're having. So it's important to be very discerning into what definitions you want to buy into. There are no right or wrong. All experiences through life are valid. It's what works for you. What do you prefer? So I hope that addresses and answers your question, because, again, it's a relevant question. It's a crazy thing we're going through, and I imagine a lot of you guys have this in the back of your head. Wow, maybe we're all freaking, all these people, me, the people watching, and Victor is a nut job, and we're all lost in the sauce. Maybe, maybe not. I don't care. I'm happy. Namaste.